Sunsets hitting the Seine, boats sliding past, Paris doing that soft orange glow thing. I'm leaning on the railing when overconfident dad in a visor unfolds a giant map like it's 1993. He squints at the Eiffel Tower behind him and goes, "So, which river is this? The Thames or the one in Venice?" His teenage daughter just freezes, like her soul blue-screened. A French couple nearby exchange that tiny eyebrow lift that says everything without saying anything. I swear even the river current slows down to process what it just heard. The best part is he proudly folds the map like he just unlocked Europe on hard mode. Berlin, drizzly afternoon, Cold War museum, dim lights, heavy history, everyone whispering. Loud Texas guy in a flag hoodie is reading a plaque very slowly. He suddenly announces way too loud, "So this wall, did they move it to another country when the Cold War ended?" The tour group turns as one organism, necks snapping in sync. The guide stares at him with that museum smile that's 40% patience, 60% pain. Somewhere, you can feel an entire generation of Berlin grandparents collectively exhale through the floorboards. Yeah, man, they just picked up the wall like IKEA furniture and walked it over. Barcelona beach promenade, late afternoon, smells like sunscreen, sangria, and bad decisions. I'm sitting on a bench when a college bro in a backwards cap is staring at the Mediterranean like it's a loading screen. He nudges his friend and says, "Dude, is this the same ocean that touches England and Brazil and stuff?" The friend nods with the absolute confidence of someone who barely passed high school geography. Two old Catalan guys nearby pause their card game mid-move, eyes narrowing at the word Brazil. One of them just mutters something that sounds like a prayer for future generations. The only thing deeper than that ocean was the silence after that sentence, bro. Zurich tram at rush hour. Spotless, quiet, you can hear phone screens being tapped. Wellness, Karen steps on with a neon yoga mat, already vibrating at 200% entitlement. She looks around and goes, "Why is nobody talking? This is so repressed. In America, we build community." The whole tram glances up, then instantly looks back down like a synchronized social anxiety performance. A kid gently presses a finger to his lips, not at her, just at existence. Even the tram bell gives a tiny, offended ding. The universe tried to give her a hint with that silence sign, and she namasteyed straight past it. Rome side street. Tiny gelato shop, where the pistachio literally glows under the glass. Instagram travel girl walks in with a ring light clipped to her phone, filming already. She tells the server, "Ciao! Do you have this in vanilla only, but like Italian vanilla?" The poor guy blinks 3 times, then points at the 40 handcrafted flavors behind him, like a man questioning his life choices. A little nonna at the corner table just stares, spoon midair, frozen by secondhand embarrassment. Her friend leans over and whispers a single word that sounds suspiciously like YouTube. Nothing says authentic cultural experience like demanding America in a cone, huh? Athens taverna at night, plates clinking, bouzouki humming, grilled octopus smell everywhere. Retired rich husband in a linen shirt waves the waiter over and goes, "Yeah, can you make this Greek salad, but without the feta, the olives, or the onions?" The waiter's smile twitches like the Wi-Fi just cut out. At the next table, an old man literally stops mid-toast, glass in the air, stunned. His wife mutters something that sounds like she just disowned half the tourists on Earth. The salad that finally arrives looks like witness protection lettuce. Somewhere, a Greek grandmother just lost a wrinkle from laughing at his soul. Norwegian fjord lookout, wind slicing your face, mountains dropping straight into steel blue water. Business consultant guy, Patagonia vest and all, is staring at the cliffs like they're a quarterly report. He says if they just flattened a section here, They could build a premium golf resort, huge missed opportunity. The local bus driver next to me actually chokes on his coffee. A hiker turns around slowly, like nature itself is about to file an HR complaint. The fjord wind gusts hard enough to snatch the guy's cap straight into the water without a second chance. In Europe, sometimes the landscape does the performance review, bro. Vatican City inside St. Peter's, golden light pouring down, everything echoing with soft footsteps. Patriot uncle in a bald eagle polo is squinting at the ceiling like it's a flat screen. He whispers loudly, "So is this the main church for all of Europe? Or is there like a VIP one for important countries?" The group of nuns behind him stop mid-prayer, eyes flicking open like they heard a spiritual glitch. Our guide just closes his eyes for a second, regrouping his entire theology degree. A nearby old Italian man crosses himself so slowly it feels like he's buffering. My guy really treated 500 years of art like tiered stadium seating. Salzburg hillside, dusk, the old town glowing, Mozart cookies everywhere, vibe very storybook. Cruise tourist in a I Love Europe hoodie is filming a selfie video. She spins around and says, "So this is where they filmed all those castle scenes from Game of Thrones, right?" A local teenager sitting on the grass physically recoils, headphones off. His friends stare at her like she just called Mozart a DJ. One of them tries to explain Austria, HBO, and actual maps in a single sigh. For the record, even the pigeons looked offended enough to unsubscribe from her channel. Prague beer hall, vaulted ceilings, wooden tables, mugs slamming like a medieval drum line. Backpack bro with a beanie and an overstuffed pack is counting coins way too loudly. He says, "Wait, why is tipping not mandatory? How do they survive without us fixing the system?" The check waiter raises one eyebrow so high it's basically a separate person. At the next table, an old guy in a hockey jersey lets out a tiny snort into his beer. The room goes quiet just long enough for him to realize nobody was waiting for him to redesign their economy. The only thing not included in the bill was his sense of importance. Amsterdam bike lane, crisp morning, canals glittering, tiny bells ringing like polite alarms. Florida man variant in a tank top steps right into the red bike lane to take a selfie. A cyclist screeches to a halt centimeters away and he goes, "Whoa, relax. This is just like a sidewalk upgrade, right?" The entire row of bikes behind clog up like a traffic jam in Mario Kart. A local woman calmly points to the painted bike symbol on the ground, eyes doing all the talking. You could hear a collective inhale from every cyclist in a 3-street radius. "Congratulations, sir. You almost got run over by common sense." Iceland's Blue Lagoon, steam floating everywhere, people whispering like it's a hot spring library. TikTok travel expert, ring light balanced on a rock, is doing a sponsored monologue. She looks around and says, "Imagine if they made this into a luxury water park. Slides here, pool bar there, tiered access." A local in the corner just stares at her, frozen mid-sip of his drink like she suggested Wi-Fi inside a volcano. Two German tourists exchange that look that translates to, "Please don't give anybody ideas." For one terrifying second, you can actually hear capitalism scribbling notes in the mist. Lisbon tram stop late afternoon. Yellow tram rattling up the hill, tiles shining after rain. Honeymoon husband in matching just married tee is frowning at Google Maps. He tells his wife, "So Portugal is basically like Spain's beach extension, right? Same country, kinda?" A grandma on the bench next to them doesn't even blink, just tilts her head very slowly. The tram driver leans out hearing that word extension, and his mustache twitches like a seismograph. A teenager nearby quietly turns down his music just to fully absorb the ignorance. If Iberia were a group project, that man would be the guy who never showed up. Edinburgh Castle Courtyard. Fog creeping in, bagpipes echoing off the stone walls. Bargain hunter guy is staring at a plaque about centuries of Scottish battles. He turns to his girlfriend and says, "So, Braveheart, that was all like accurate documentary stuff, right? They filmed it here?" A tour guide 3 meters away visibly flinches, then rearranges his face into customer service mode. 2 Scottish kids nearby exchange a look that could cut stone cleaner than any sword. Even the ravens perched on the tower seem to judge his Netflix understanding. My dude really treated a historically butchered movie like a peer-reviewed thesis. Dublin pub, wood darkened by 1,000 spilled pints, fiddles going wild in the corner. Movie fanatic in a superhero hoodie leans over the bar and says, "Can you play that one Irish song from the Titanic scene? You know, the real cultural one?" The bartender pauses mid-pour, eyeing him like he just ordered green beer in July. Musicians at the table nearby keep playing, but you can feel their souls narrowing. A granny at the bar lets out a tiny, lethal Jesus. If culture was a playlist, this guy definitely hit shuffle on the wrong decade. Copenhagen Bakery at 8 a.m., smell of butter and coffee strong enough to fix your life. Complainer dad joins the perfectly quiet queue, sighs loudly, and says, "Why is everyone so serious? In the States, we'd already be joking with the barista." Nobody answers. They just keep moving with quiet, precise efficiency. The barista looks up with a tiny, polite smile that somehow says, "Please don't." A kid with a cinnamon roll glances at him like he just insulted IKEA. Somewhere between the silence and the pastries, his personality did a soft reboot. Turns out not every line needs a stand-up routine, champ. Warsaw train station, fluorescent lights, announcements echoing in Polish, people dragging suitcases with pure determination. Freedom guy in a bald eagle cap is staring at the departure board. He squints and goes, "If they want tourists, why don't they just write everything in English first?" A college kid next to him slowly turns, earbuds out, eyebrow up. The ticket clerk taps the information desk sign, which already has English, German, and probably your horoscope printed on it. You can almost hear Copernicus spinning in his grave from the language take. Funny thing about traveling? Sometimes the thing that needs translation is your expectations, bro. Lion Bistro. Tiny tables pressed together. Smells like garlic butter and red wine. Wellness influencer in beige linen is poking at her plate of coq au vin. She says to her phone, "So French food is kinda low vibe?" No gluten-free, no macro bowls, just vibes. The waiter's left eye twitches so hard it might file for overtime. At the next table, an old chef on break just stares at her quinoa-colored soul. His friend murmurs something about losing the war to Instagram. When the dessert menu lands and she asks for just hot water with lemon, France loses another piece of patience. Swiss Alpine Trail. Crisp air so clean it hurts. Cowbells echoing in the distance. First-time traveler in a brand new hiking outfit is panting dramatically. He stops, looks at the massive drop, and says, "They should really put a handrail on these cliffs. This would be a great amusement park." The Swiss hiker behind him freezes, boots inches from his backpack. A group of retirees in their 70s stride past like mountain goats, barely glancing at him. Even the cow on the hillside pauses, chewing, staring with neutral judgment. Not everything needs to pass a safety inspection from Six Flags, my dude. Istanbul at sunset, call to prayer floating over the city, courtyard of a historic mosque glowing gold. Minimalist adventurer in a tiny backpack stands in the entry, reading the dress code sign. He whispers, "Man, if they relax the rules a bit, imagine how many more followers they'd get on Reels." A local volunteer handing out loaner scarves just smiles softly, like he's heard this 1,000 times and still hopes humanity will improve. The older man next to me shakes his head, eyes kind but tired. A kid tugs the tourist's sleeve and simply says, "Some places are not for content." For once, he actually pockets his phone, and that's the only conversion anyone needed. Transylvanian village at dusk, fog rolling in, wooden houses leaning like they know secrets. Overconfident Dad 2.0 is marching around with his camera, telling his kids, "This is where all the real Dracula stuff actually went down. Romanians must be so proud of the brand." The local shopkeeper at the corner slowly lifts his head from behind a stack of bread. A teenager nearby gives him the longest stare in Eastern Europe. No subtitles needed. Even the village dog pauses mid-scratch to reconsider humanity. Somewhere between the souvenir fangs and his sentence, a history book quietly burst into flames. Helsinki Harbor Cafe, cold wind, seagulls negotiating with fries, everything clean and quietly expensive. Instagram Travel Girl 2.0 is staring at the total on her receipt. She gasps and says, "Wait, there's no influencer discount? In America, I'd at least get a free pastry for exposure." The barista's face doesn't move, but his soul definitely just rolled its eyes. A guy in a wool beanie at the next table snorts into his coffee. A seagull hops onto the railing, watching her like it's waiting for the word collab. In this economy, the only exposure they want is your frozen cheeks in February. Budapest thermal bath, steam clouds drifting over tiled pools, old men playing chess in the water. College bro 2.0 steps into the hot pool, looks around amazed and says, "Dude, imagine if they franchised this and put TVs in the water. Europe would be rich." The old Hungarian man across from him slowly lifts his eyebrow, then his knight, then his judgment. His chess partner gives bro a long, unimpressed once-over and goes back to the board. The ripples from that sentence probably reached Vienna in under 10 seconds. Some places are already wealthy. Just not in the currency you're checking, bro. Venice Canal, late afternoon, gondolas drifting like slow-motion traffic, water slapping the stone walls. Wellness Karen 2.0 is in a gondola frowning at the gondola traffic jam. She says, honestly, if they just organized these like Uber lanes, the city would be so much more efficient. The gondolier stops singing mid-note, staring at her like she proposed a drive-through in a cathedral. Another gondolier drifts past, shrugging with centuries of practiced patience. A kid on a bridge above yells "Benvenuti" and laughs, already understanding more than she does. Venice has survived floods, empires, and time itself. It'll be fine without your app, Signora.